Hey family, hey friends, I got a card in the mail. Check it out. It says, Ashley, here's a few more seeds. We'll be sending you more soon. Love, Tessie. Did you guys see my video where I held up the flower where I planted her seeds? Well, she had also sent me an email, and in this email, it had asked me that she would love to know how my thoughts and my beliefs have stayed the same or how much they may have changed. She knew me from my past, and she knew me from the podcast that I had for 10 years. Obviously, I don't have it anymore. I don't live where I used to live anymore. I'm not around the people, and life has extremely flipped upside down, or if you want to say upright. But she says, you spoke so beautifully even then about your faith, about being a homemaker, about being a wife, and those messages meant so much to me and to so many other women. Do you still feel the same passion for those things today? Do you still feel that the Lord is working in your life in a new and deeper way? Absolutely. Why though? There is so many ways I could answer this to Tessie and to my listeners. I'm just sharing our conversation from behind the scenes. So how do I feel that the Most High is working in my life in a new or deeper way? Honestly, because he is showing me not only the errors that I walked in, lived in, or moved in, but he's healing me and healing my nervous system, which is really important. Like, I don't have to rush to do things. I don't have to look over my shoulder to worry how someone might feel. I don't have to manage someone else's mood. When you're emotionally hyper vigilant, because you are living or growing up trying to so-called keep the peace. You're trying to predict the area that's going to be safe that you walk in. How are you not going to make somebody mad? How are you not going to make a mistake? Those things day after day after day in really high controlled environments really take a toll on your mood. And then at the same time, your emotions aren't validated because you're trying to shove and suppress everything that you think and feel down because you're told not to think it and you're told not to feel it and you're told that it's not true and you're told that it's just because you're a woman and because you're wicked. So those around you have to figure themselves out now. Like, I'm figuring me out now, and those in my life are figuring themselves out now, and I have more people that respect me for who I am now than what the labeling and the targeting and the ostracizing did for me for so many years. Now people really genuinely are peaceful people in my life. And so, like I said, I'm not responsible for managing people's moods. I was super worried about how others felt and thought and in every kind of way. So my needs, how about that, Tessie? My needs are not too much. You taught me that. You told me that it's okay to need something. It's okay to ask for something. I didn't believe that. It's okay to, have money. It's okay to have a bank account. It's okay to have a job. It's okay to have desires. Yes, it is. I promise you, in a spiritual abusive environment, it's not okay to do anything. Like, it's not okay to be you. And your identity is stripped down to the lowest common denominator. So everyone else is supposed to matter more than you simply because you're selfish if you matter at all. And so, you can learn in your childhood that having needs can be really risky. You know what I mean? And so honestly, I'm trying to turn this air down, guys. Honestly, I have to say that I stopped, seeking comfort in others. I stopped seeking support in others or protection or reassurance in others or validation from others. Like, you do not have to become low maintenance like I was. You're taught not to be independent of your husband, of course, because there is a dependency and there is a relationship that is, supposed to be upheld, an endurance that you have for one another and a love you have for one another. So you're supposed to be helpful to him and he's to matter more. I get it. Like, I get the indoctrination. I get the truth of it. But I see that, a woman doesn't have to become invisible, or this is what you said, Tessie. You deserve happiness. I think that's what your email said. Yeah, you deserve love. I had wrote down some of the things because I just didn't want to get off track. So you literally said to me, do I feel like the Most High is working in my life in a new and deeper way? Like, do I still have the same passions? Of course. Like, I love my family even more. Our quality time together is different. You know, it's not lorded over. There's not an authority that's above my husband. Just the Messiah as it should be. You know, the family structure as it should be. And so I don't have to abandon myself, like completely forget about me, you know. I don't have to be people pleasing. I don't have to be over giving. I don't have to be a perfectionist. I can slow down and do things at a pace that is not lazy or passive, but just caretaking and not so rigid and so driven by performance. You know, just something that was never a part of my identity, honestly. It was something that I was always fighting to be loved. It's like, I don't know if you guys ever heard that term arrested development, but that is real. It really is real. When you are trying to, you know, you're like a little girl in your mind or in your body, and you're wanting to be reassured and validated and accepted so much, you know, being needed is not the same thing as being loved. So I was greatly needed. I was needed at this place and needed at that place and needed. Now I know who loves me and who don't, you know? So obviously when you're growing up, you feel safe when you're useful, you know, like you get the high fives and the thank yous and the great jobs and all that. But the moment you're sick, nobody visits you, you know? For me, I buried my twins, and who was there? Who was at the burial? You know, so it's like, okay, you start to wake up and kind of go, all right, you guys love my performance and what I can do, but you don't love me. And so I don't have to be, you know, loved by anyone anymore. And it hurts. It hurts a lot. Like, you cry a lot. You know, I have like, I even brought it actually in my little email stack, because that's what I'm out here in the car going through is my emails. But I brought this picture of my family that a girl drew for me. And when I tell you, I love that picture so much. I'm going to make sure that her name is not on here. Nope, and it's not. So you can see that these are my 4 sons. And these were just some of the scriptural references here, like the sword of the Lord and a menorah, which is a light. And it says, we love you. And my 4th son was still a baby. And this young girl was she was a huge part of my life. She's a huge reason why I still cry. I think about the children, Tessie, and I go, I don't know, if they see me, they're only going to know me for the lies that have been said and for who I've been painted to be, you know, without a head cover, you know, all the outward things, you know. But if anyone has ever grown up with an emotionally immature mother, then there are patterns, right, that you just still to this day probably either hate, despise, or don't want in yourself. Or maybe you become more like that than you would ever want to know. But you do not have to earn love the same way that you did in your childhood, the same way that I did in my spiritually abusive assembly. You don't have to earn your love. No, love is just supposed to exist. If you laid on your sick bed for 25 years, love exists. It's not because you could get up and serve and do and walk and be at all the places. So, you know, you might have learned that being lovable means being useful. That's really big in our culture. You know, you got to be impressive and successful. You got to have this body, that face. You got to be agreeable. You got to be good. You know, the agreeable was a big word that was used. Like, if you're a wife, you better be agreeable. Okay, so we can all be agreeable, right? But what happens when there's not a agreeableness? What happens when there's a disagreement? Can we not maturely walk through that as well? Absolutely. If you don't teach that balance, then you're going to give a false idea of marriage. You're going to paint the outward cup, you know, like a white tomb. And you're not going to go, oh, what about the inside? What about the rottenness of the bones that's on the inside? You know, like, we can't just outwardly have an agreeableness in our marriage. No, we have to have a matureness, a responsibility between us, flowing between two people. So yeah, there are so many things that I'm still super passionate about. I learned so much, and there's so much good with my experience, which brings me to my next question, because someone says to me, I have the stack here, guys. Someone had emailed me, did God send you to that farm? Did God send you? Why or why not? And why would he send you away? Could you answer that for your audience? Sure. Yes, God sent me. I remember the day that I heard his voice. I remember that he said, go to ... Matter of fact, I was so angry with a couple of things that had transpired in my life, and I was in my 20s, and I was a spitfire. That's a good word that I learned from my sister in Christ, Everett. So in my 20s and in my anger, I'm on my knees for the first time. And I am punching the floor in a rage at something terrible that happened around me. Two things that went back to back in 1 week in my life. And I clearly, distinctively heard, go to ... Like, it shook my own thoughts. That's how I know I heard from God. And so I went down a path to go to ... when I had not been there. And I know that some people can walk away from, oh my God, 20 years you were somewhere where you said that God sent you, and now you walked away. How could you stop enduring? I had that email in my stack too. How could you stop enduring? Endurance doesn't stop because you move any location. Endurance is a part of humanity. So we're all enduring the fights, the battles, and the afflictions of our flesh. And we're enduring this life and the things that come at us while we try to uphold our faith, right? And so my answer really is that in order to understand that this is what God did for you, and now this, like, how could this happen? You have to have childlike faith. So you have to be able to go, all right, my adult faith is burned with bitterness and hurt and insecurity, and this dude said this, and I'm about to choke him. Or this and this, or go back to even my Mennonite friend. That's like, after 30 years of being at a church, every single person, your daughter, your family, and the ministers, all the Mennonites reject you, ostracize you. You got to have childlike faith again, because adult faith is burnt. I'm done. When I tell you I'm done as an adult, oh, done. Like, more than done. Like, but if I don't have childlike faith again, then I wouldn't be on YouTube, or I wouldn't be, if you want to say, chasing a dream again. Because you have to believe that what you're doing when you're a child of God, you have to believe that what you're going through is teaching you. And you have to believe that your surroundings, your environment, your friends, and your circumstance is what has been given to you to work with. So I can't materialize a different situation to go, well, if I had not gone, maybe I wouldn't be hurt. And if I had not spent 20 years, maybe I wouldn't have wasted my life. And, all the regrets, I would have had more money and a bank account, and I would have all these things. No, I don't know that I would have had all those things. I could have had a drug past. I might not have had this YouTube for sure. I might not have the amazing people that I have in my life. I might not have the overcoming testimony that I have in my life. I might not be able to strengthen anybody. And so there's a lot of good that you have to turn your mind to, but you get that way through a lot of tears, because if you don't accept the situation that you have on you, then how are you going to know when God moves through you? Because if you don't move in what you know and move in what you have, then the who you know is not going to come through you. So why would he send me away? Well, easily, honestly, because you can't hold up a crumbling house. You can't let someone dim your light. You can only pray and endure for so long to beg for Jesus Christ to be the center of another person's life, when another person has rejected Jesus Christ so much that you finally just have to say, we can't walk together because we don't agree. You know, I think, you can get angry. You can get really angry. But honestly, guess what? There's not going to be healing if you don't get angry. And if you ain't got real angry, come on, y'all. Y'all know y'all got angry, right? Y'all know y'all been angry. Then you probably haven't gone deep enough. Because there is a rage inside that lives way beneath survival. Like way beneath the, oh, everything's good, everything's fine, just moving on. No. There's a rage that builds up in your life. And a lot of times it's shaped by your own dysfunction or someone else's dysfunction. But how much of your actual personality that is a byproduct of surviving chaos, that is a deep well of anger. And so, the question really comes to my mind right now to think about, like, how can you actually be a part of something and, fight so hard for it and support it and listen to it and be the voice for it and have a podcast for it and all the things, right? Honestly, that's a pretty easy answer. For many years, there just wasn't the same vision. I was given a mic to speak into about Jesus Christ. Not about a man, not about marriage, not about a new way or a new life, a new anything, And for any of you who are following my channel and you don't know the history of my church experience, it was a lot of chaos. It was a lot of chaos. It wasn't clarity. And a lot of men were left in confusion when it came to the scriptures, because one thing is said and another thing is done. Or one thing is said and then another verse is said at another time that is not contextually agreeing with the other verse. So it was just so much confusion. And sadly, people that love God are wrapped up into the indoctrination. And so people that love the Most High, that have forsaken their lives, they uprooted their lives, left their families, moved from across the country to be a part of something amazing and special. And that in itself needed to be acknowledged. But then to get there to be not appreciated, underappreciated, overworked, performance-driven, man worshipped and exalting someone above Jesus Christ to the point where Jesus Christ's name is not even mentioned or lifted up. Like you don't even hear about Jesus, which is fine to someone who doesn't believe in Jesus. But when I had came to my church, it was about Jesus. It was about laying on hands. It was about healing, deliverance. It was about getting free. And that really motivated me because of my pain, because of my past, because of my depression, because of all the things that I was trying to shed to be accepted by God. And so going back to, do I believe that God led me there? My 95-year-old grandfather, when I saw him for the first time in so many years, because when I was indoctrinated and rejecting people that loved me, even if they didn't believe in Yeshua, even if they didn't share the same lifestyle, I rejected them because I was told to. And when I was told to, I believed that I should. And when I believed that I should, it became an action that I justified. And when I justified it long enough, it became a way of life. And so now I'm running into this 95-year-old grandfather that I have missed, years of his life. And he says, "That place sure did clean you up, didn't they?" And I said, "Yes, Pa." That's something we say in the South, Pa. "Yes, Pa, they really did. They really did. It was really beautiful." But when you finally see it, you can see the good. You can see why you were sent there. You can see why anybody is or should have went or all the things. But you can also see that your nervous system is screaming. You can't heal in the place that hurts you. And if the place that hurts you doesn't change to restore the Savior of our lives, Jesus Christ, back to his rightful place because of what he has done for his body, if we don't put him back in his rightful place, there won't be order. But if you have anger, let yourself feel it, because it's not the end of healing. It's often the beginning. And honestly, if you can just grab a hold of your childlike faith again, that's something that I'm trying to do. I'm not in front of this camera going, oh, I've arrived. Hey, everybody, 1 year from being in a church and I've just got it all figured out. No, I'm just thinking that hopefully if I vlog these stories, share these emails, that someone will be touched by it. And I appreciate even an email that I received tonight. That thing was so encouraging to know that great change is coming into someone's life just by hearing my voice. My husband always said it. When you go on YouTube again, wife, you're just doing it for the one. And whoever the one is, if it's more than one, then all glory be to Jesus Christ, because he's deserving. I'll be back. Thanks for listening.